Bodybuilders are destroying the youth. They have been plaguing society with their massive egos. These unbelievable meatheads have been spreading misinformation and have been making people take steroids, influencing the youth, and their style of training with their lazy machines and lifting straps is poisoning society, causing thousands of deaths every nanosecond. But then a man, a myth, and a legend came from the shadows. He started posting on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube Shorts, which by the way I've also started posting there. So make sure to follow my brand new TikTok account and my Instagram account to see more of NerdyAnt64. Anyway, now that the plug is over, we were all being poisoned by evil bodybuilding, this lazy and unhealthy way of training. But then athletic bodybuilding was introduced to society, which claims to save all of us from the evil, unhealthy machines and lifting straps. That man who saved us all last year is none other than Rios, the athletic bodybuilder. I put out a community post recently, like the new beanie. It's a creeper beanie, it's very nice. I put out a community post recently asking you guys who I should critique next, because I can only use Jack's for views for so long. And then one of you guys recommended Rios. I used to be actually a big fan of his content. I still do kind of like it, even if it's a bit stupid sometimes. So today, we're going to be critiquing Rios's short form content.
Maturing in the gym is realizing there are only two legitimate fitness goals. No, it's not about looking like a bulky bodybuilder to satisfy your insecure ego. It's about looking like an athlete or performing like an athlete. These are realistic, healthy, and life-changing goals. My YouTube channel became popular based on this unpopular take, which is pretty crazy to say, because most people don't realize that fitness and exercise based this way is the right way.
So the beginning of this video by Mario, which is actually pinned to the top of his Instagram reels, is basically a summary of what he believes in. He believes that bodybuilding is bad for you. They're all full of ego and they only get so big to satisfy their ego. But that kind of summarizes his philosophy that bodybuilding is bad and you should try and lift for athletics, and you should never lift for bodybuilding or just for vanity to look good, because bodybuilding, at the end of the day, it's a competition where a bunch of dudes get almost naked and they oil up and tan up to look the best for other dudes. It is just a beauty pageant in a sense.
This girl shows what women really think about your strength.
You mean to tell me that you picked that up and put it down how many times? You're such an alpha male. We should invite more girls into our relationship so they can experience how strong you are.
Unless you have a trophy wife like me, chances are this is a skit that is in reality, because most women don't care how strong you are.
The only time a girl has been impressed by my strength after I benched 100 kilograms is a girl who already likes me. That's the reality. Girls do not give a single You should lift, not just to appease the opposite gender, but to appease yourself with the mental and physical benefits weightlifting can provide to go on that self-improvement journey, if you will.
A lot of people think that building muscle and strength will attract more women, which is true, but not to the degree they think. Once you live for about 1 or 2 years, the changes in your physique won't matter to your woman. But what does is what working out does to you internally, which is confidence, security, and health, which is all achieved through the most aesthetic physique, the athletic physique.
Honestly, except for that very last part of the video, he's pretty much spot on, let's be real here. If you're a bulky bodybuilder and like me, I'm obviously way too bulky, right? I have to like lean down, but I'm just way too bulky and big. If you're way too bulky and big like me, then it actually is a turn off to most girls. You want to be like, the athletic look is genuinely considered the most attractive look, but I would focus on changing your appearance for yourself, not just to appeal the opposite gender.
The fitness industry is on one end, you've got a bunch of juiced up meatheads spouting completely outdated bro science. On the other is the so-called science-based crowd overcomplicating every tiny detail and contradicting themselves whenever a new study drops.
Juiced up meatheads? Bro took a term out of the Rios vocabulary. But does bro realize these two groups of fitness is what I've been against completely? And that's why I do athletic bodybuilding, which is muscle building based on an athlete perspective, or in simple terms, healthy bodybuilding. And you're not a healthy bodybuilder because you train lazy as hell in the gym and you use straps for a leg extension.
Oh my god, the stupidity. Oh, it's hitting me really hard. Oh, damn it. Healthy bodybuilding? Okay, this is one of his main talking points in his videos, that bodybuilding is unhealthy because they use machines which don't apply to sports. Therefore, if you lift with machines, you're unhealthy. I personally use way more free weights than machines, but there is no reason why machines are unhealthy for you. If you build muscle and if you train with resistance, you're training with resistance. The increased bone density you get from weightlifting, the cardiovascular benefits, all of those and much more still come in regardless of what you use to train with, whether it's machines, free weights, calisthenics, it does not matter. This is something he has purely made up, presumably so he can sell his athletic bodybuilding fitness course.
Powerlifters are actually super weak, because just because they lift a lot of weight doesn't mean they're actually strong.
Isn't the definition of strength being able to produce high force? And if you can lift a lot of weight, it means you can produce high force. Powerlifters are strong in the lifts they train. But what Mario's gonna do here is he's gonna somehow say because they're not athletes, they're weak. Watch.
Ever wonder why you see a strong person in the gym look like absolute garbage when playing a sport? I mean, their body literally lets them down when they have to move because they're only strong in one plane of motion. As you must be strong in all planes of motion to actually have true strength that applies in the real world.
Do you know why they're bad at sports? Because they don't train for the sport. Of course they're bad at it. So his entire philosophy, what he makes all his videos on, is if you're bad at athletics and you're bad at sports, you're weak, you're small, and you're unhealthy, which makes no sense. And basically, in a sense, it's just rage baiting so he gets attention. I mean, why would anyone give him attention? Oh wait, that's exactly what I'm doing.
Ego lifters always pay the price.
I actually can squat 130, by the way. Just a humble brag. Does that impress the two girls watching this video? If you're a girl watching this video, comment down below how impressed you are. Bro, this is natural selection taking its place. Do you know why? I have so many friends who squat, bench, deadlift, whatever, and they never use the fucking safety bars. They take like 6 seconds to set up, they will save your life, and if you're not gonna have a spotter, they are the only way to fail safely. Stop being a dumbass and use the safety bars, or Mario Rios will come for you, oiled up of course, with Leon Edwards, because he has a thing for Leon Edwards for some reason.
Just like every other gym fail, he's got that stupid ass belt on. But even with it, bro, use your brain. If you're training for strength, work in the 2 to 5 rep range, not the 1 to 5, and choose your weight wisely. As you don't want to choose a weight that makes you scared, and you might not get up, but just choose a weight that's hard enough to where it pisses you off.
He tries to blame the belt for some reason. The belt only makes you stronger because it increases that inter-abdominal pressure. I don't use the belt because I just can't be bothered. Using the belt is not why he got hurt. He simply tried to lift too much weight that he wasn't capable of lifting. Guys, if you're going for a new 1 rep max attempt, only add the smallest weight increment you possibly can, about 2.5 kilos. A lot of people try and jump in 5 or 10 kilo increments at a time, and it's like, bro, if you could barely squat 120, what the makes you think you're gonna squat 130? Use your brain there.
This priest claims that victim weight is real.
You're under 200 pounds, you're skinny, you have a 6-pack, because you're skinny, you know, you're basically victim weight. You can't bench 315 pounds. You're trying to show off your gains for other dudes on Instagram.
So to say this, father, but I have to disagree. I mean, actually, out of the top 4 pound-for-pound fighters, 3 of them aren't even close to 200 pounds. We know how weak really light people are, but we don't talk about how slow and stiff big people are. When we're talking about protector, provider, capable men, aka not victim weight, I give a generous range of 160 pounds to 190 pounds.
This is a purely ego-driven statement. The only dudes without abusing steroids that are going to be 200 pounds lean, or at least semi-lean, are dudes who are really fucking tall. If you are like me and you're about average height, I'm about 5'8" or 173-ish centimeters, if I were to try to hit 200 pounds, or let's say 90 kilos, currently I'm at about 73, 74 kilo body weight, I would have to just get fat. I am not putting on 17, 20 plus kilos without just getting fat. Muscle building is a very slow process. Most people might, from their first year of training to their 5th year of training, only build, let's say, 5 to 15 kilos of muscle, as a very random ballpark there. And probably less than 15, but I'm giving a very wide range just for the purposes of this argument. The only people who are building enough muscle to go from, let's say, 70 kilos videos while staying kind of lean are people on steroids or people who are really, really tall. And I think this promotes body dysmorphia to a whole new level. It promotes ego to a whole new level. I think it's an absolutely disgusting thing to perpetuate. Anyway, that is the end of this video here critiquing Mario Rios. Overall, some just straight up misinformation, a little bit of dumb arguments here and there, but overall, I do not hate him. I think he makes fine content for the most part. That's the end of the video. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more, but for now, I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye, everybody. I'm a pencil neck. So, I go on YouTube and on Instagram to discover the best way to work out, the most optimal way, if you will, or like in general, how should I be approaching the gym? And if you go down the internet rabbit hole, you might end up at one of two sides. The first is the bro lifter side that encourages you to lift like the greats, like Arnold did, like Ronnie Coleman did, to just do the classic exercises and train like classic bodybuilders. And the other side is the science-based side, who say you should train based purely on science. Some of these people, Run This Coaching and a few other science-based lifters, have got into a little bit of beef. So we're going to take a look at some of these videos to see who do I think is right, who do I think is wrong, and who do I think you should listen to, because I am approaching this conversation as the average viewer. I, like many of you guys, watch a lot of fitness content. I am not approaching this as someone who is in a position of authority. I'm approaching this as just the average person who wants to make gains. And you're gonna find I have a lot more of a neutral opinion than you might think.
One more. Come on. Come on. Come on. Good. All right. That was probably 0 to 1 RAR. We're doing a single arm tricep extension, dog. Just go for the extra rep. How fatiguing could a single arm tricep extension be? Why are we acting like we're benching 425s? Like, whoa, we gotta rack that. Another rep could be sketchy. It's a single arm cable tricep extension. What are we doing?
This is kind of funny, but no, this is ridiculous. Like, why are we just announcing to the world that our programming sucks?
Okay, so that one line there.
Why are we just announcing to the world that our programming sucks?
I believe this kind of attitude to debating is why we have this like massive feud for some reason. Because my general opinion is, who gives a fuck? Who cares if you train with slightly higher volume or slightly lower volume? Who cares if you go all the way to failure on a single arm tricep extension or you leave one rep in reserve? We all have the same goal here, to get as jacked as possible. And I think it's ridiculous that we've gotten so emotional and some people become so condescending when making these response videos. So in a lot of his videos, he basically says, you're small, so we shouldn't listen to you. Sorry, the cat wants to leave the room. Cat cameo. That if you're not massive, you shouldn't be allowed to give advice or something along the lines of that. But then we also have the science lifters who act like they're better than you, like they're smarter than you, that you are an idiot, a Neanderthal, which I've heard them say a few times. So we have two people basically having a primary school level argument. Overall, should he have gone to failure? Like, does it really matter? Obviously, maybe going to failure every single set might not be a good idea from a pure recovery standpoint, but going to failure relatively often is a good idea because it's always hard to gauge just how close to failure you are. There is some evidence suggesting failure training is better than leaving reps in the tank, and there's some evidence that says otherwise. So I think trying to narrow in on, I can't do that on the internet, trying to like just pick one side is a bit foolish. You should always approach arguments or debates with nuance. What these lifters should be doing is responding to this video saying, I respect your opinion, I personally don't agree, and here's why. And if what your opponent, I guess, says is reasonable, acknowledge that it's reasonable and do it in a kind way, not just saying, oh, your programming sucks or your arms are small. I am making this video from the perspective of somebody who watches these videos casually and enjoys them, right? I enjoy watching educational fitness content, and I'm sure a lot of you guys do too, hence why you're on this video, which is why I just don't like this kind of negativity. I think we should be lifting each other up, and I think we should all just be a little bit more chill. Now, we're going to look at a video by the guy who this guy is responding to, Run This Coaching, and we're going to see if he handles these arguments in a bit more of a nice or nuanced way.
Why does everybody think that they need to bulk?
Because you do, unless you want to hit the forever skinny pose, just like for the rest of your life.
Okay, so here we have off the bat, he's calling this guy forever skinny. For context, this dude is natural and he's massive. Look at him. How many naturals are that big? How many? What he should have done in this video, I feel like a teacher explained to two kids why they shouldn't be fighting. But what he should have done in this video is said, well, I think bulking is a lot better for growth and it's the way to get way bigger. That is the strat, and here's why I think that, right? But what he's done is he's immediately gone for that personal attack. I've seen a lot of videos talk about how, oh, you're not 200 pounds lean or you're only 160 pounds. First of all, this guy is on steroids and the guys he's responding to are not. It's not really fair to make that comparison.
If you want to put on immense gains, if you want to put on crazy size, if you want to look like a big bodybuilder, then you're going to have to bulk. You can play this game of maintaining and just staying lean all the time and ending up looking amazing. Like, obviously he looks great. But just at like that angle with that lighting, throw on an XL t-shirt, what happens?
I kind of get what he's saying. I do agree that people should be doing some kind of bulk. Obviously a bit more of a lean bulk approach, maybe as little as an 100 calorie surplus or as high as a 300 calorie surplus, because there's no reason to put on way more extra fat. But this guy ain't skinny. This guy is jacked. Brandon Clark is jacked. He's also natural with elite genetics. So there's very few naturals who could put on a t-shirt like this fucking wide and fill out the shirt. It's not something that happens.
Like, at some point, if you want to look like a freak, if you want to get big, you're going to have to bulk. You're just going to have to bulk. Nobody has ever hit 250 pounds lean without bulking. Never. Not once. And for the short kings, we'll call it 200 pounds lean. I appreciate you too.
Don't worry about hitting this arbitrary amount of weight. If you are 5'6", I have a friend who's 5'6", 65 kilos right now at maybe 15% body fat. If he wanted to get to 200 pounds lean, he'd have to put on like 15, 20 kilos of muscle. Almost nobody naturally is capable of putting on 20 kilos of muscle after their first few years of training. Maybe not in their entire lifetime. Genetics simply don't permit it. So while I understand the point of like bulk, you get heavier, then you can cut down, you can end up heavier than when before you bulked, because I bulked. I went from about 67 kilos to 75 kilos. I cut back down, and once I hit 71 kilos on the cut, I was leaner and bigger than when I started at 67, meaning I put on at least 4 or 5 kilos of muscle. I don't think throwing these arbitrary weights around is a good idea, because a lot of people will be 200 pounds lean. You'll have to take steroids. That's the reality. It doesn't matter how good your training is. It doesn't matter if you train like a bro or train like a science lifter. You might just have to take tren. Overall, I'm not gonna react to way more of these videos because I think it'd be me saying the same thing over and over again. Listen to both sides of an argument and make up your mind for yourself based on what you think is like the more correct answer or what is the best way to approach it in your opinion. Try things out, experiment. Don't just copy what one study does, because one study is not enough evidence to base your entire training philosophy on. Work hard, train in the gym. When making your response videos, be nice. Be nice in comment sections. Don't just insult each other. Don't call people stupid. Don't, call people skinny and weak and useless. Instead, just argue with the opinion, not with the person. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. If you want to see more, like, comment, and subscribe. But for now, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you all later. Goodbye, everybody. Jeff Nippard is the GOAT of the fitness industry. Recently, he released a video where he documented his journey to try and build as much muscle as possible as an experienced lifter within 1 year of training. And he did pretty well. So in today's video, we're going to be reacting to his latest video on his lower body day. This is not really a critique because Jeff Nippard is the GOAT and he is way smarter than me.
Let's get into it. All year, I kicked off this leg workout with lying leg curls. Putting them first was an absolute game changer for how my knees feel when I squat. By doing them first, not only do you prioritize your hamstrings, which is a muscle that a lot of bros neglect.
It's a really good point. I never quite thought about it that way. Now again, the muscle you train first is the one that's going to be prioritized. Personally, I don't really give a single shit about my hamstrings, so I practice my quads. I do my squat movement first, but there's no correct answer. You can definitely do leg curls first.
Now, why did I pick the lying leg curl over the seated leg curl? Well, most of you have probably heard me talk about this study before, which showed that across 12 weeks, seated leg curls caused 1.6 times more hamstrings growth than lying leg curls, which is true. So let me explain. First, I do lying leg curls on one day of the week, and then seated hamstring curls on my second leg day of the week. Also, research shows that having exercise variety is generally better for developing a muscle more proportionally across all of its heads. And even though this study did show better hamstrings growth with the seated leg curl, there is another big muscle in your legs called the sartorius, and it actually grew better with lying leg curls.
So this is why Jeff Nippard is the GOAT. First of all the studies references are in the description, which is lovely. But second of all, he's also the GOAT because notice how even if one study says that one version of the hamstring curl is better than the other, he still uses both because Jeff Nippard understands nuance. The reason why the seated leg curl maybe caused more growth was simply down to the fact that the seated leg curl stretches the hamstrings more. Now, these studies are done in beginners, and what happens is this is what a lot of people figured out after about 6 months, the stretch thing being quite popular. It's this thing called sarcomere addition. I'm not very knowledgeable in this stuff, but basically you stretch the muscle, which technically made it bigger, so it appeared bigger in the studies. So when you're an advanced lifter, you won't see these same differences, which is why Jeff Nippard did a whole other video where he basically disproved himself and found that in experienced lifters, there was almost no difference between having a deep stretch and a regular full range of motion, which is why Jeff Nippard is also the GOAT, because he will straight up prove himself wrong in the name of science.
Now, the main technique difference that I made this year was doing lengthen partials at the end of every last set. So once I couldn't get the pad all the way up, I kept going with partial reps.
Oh no! Lengthen partials! The fatigue! The muscle damage! Oh no! Jeff Nippard is muscle damage maxing! Oh no! I'm joking, by the way. Feel free to go past failure. More stimulus. And look, people are always talking about how, but it creates more fatigue. You never do a superset because, oh no, the theoretical fatigue. If you can recover from it, then the fatigue isn't really a big deal. You want your muscles to just barely be recovering for their next session because it means you did as much work as possible, as in getting as much stimulus as possible without overly fatiguing. So lengthened partials are an excellent idea.
Okay, this is where the real heavy overloading starts. 3 sets of 6 to 8 reps on the pendulum squat. This was easily my #1 quad builder for my year-long experiment.
Ooh, the pendulum squat for 3 sets. Oh no, it's too much volume. 1 set per exercise. I'm kidding, by the way. But yeah, 3 sets, 6 to 8 is a very good rep range and option. And
of course, it's not just for the quads. Like any squat, it'll also smash the glutes and the adductor muscles of the inner thighs. Now, obviously, not every gym has a pendulum squat machine.
I have never tried a pendulum squat, which breaks my heart because my gym has a regular squat racks, of course, no hack squat, no pendulum squat, just a super squat. Have you ever tried the super squat? It's f***ing shit. It's almost impossible to get full ROM.
I also find the arcing movement path of a pendulum squat feels a bit smoother than the linear movement path of a hack squat.
I have tried a hack squat only once or twice at different gyms, and I do find it quite awkward, so I do understand maybe picking the pendulum squat over the hack squat because it might just feel a little bit more comfortable. But anyway, let's move on to his third exercise.
Now, when it comes to hamstrings growth, I do think the tried and true Romanian deadlift made the biggest difference for me this year.
No! Doesn't Jeff Nippard know that the Romanian deadlift was vaulted by science-based lifters on Instagram? It doesn't actually work the hamstrings because someone made something up. I'm joking. The RDL works amazingly. If anyone on the internet tells you otherwise, they're bull for views and they're just copying and pasting incorrect ideas they've seen around other parts of social media. And notice how all these volume ranges are pretty moderate. They're not super low, like 1 set per exercise, and they're not super high. When it comes to volume, there's a lot of debate online. The correct answer to how much volume you should do is as much as you can possibly do while still recovering, which is I'm assuming what Jeff Nippard has done, as he has progressively overloaded quite well if you saw his full video covering his transformation.
This exercise obviously complements our hamstrings exercise from earlier, since the leg curl trains knee flexion while the RDL trains hip extension. And those are the 2 functions of the hamstrings.
That's true. I feel like when you're picking your exercises, it's best to think of it as what functions do the muscle have and how do I train each of those functions? If you do that, you'll train every part of the muscle very well.
The main cue you want to focus on here is pushing your glutes straight back. That keeps the movement a true hip hinge and prevents you from turning it into a squat.
I've actually coached my friends on how to do Romanian deadlifts, and even I make this mistake where you're focused on going as low as you possibly can go when you should really focus on pushing your butt back and actually stretching the hamstring. Your range of motion might stop just below the knee, or if you're like me and you're a little bit more flexible, it might stop somewhere around the middle of your shin. But the point is to go as deep as you can comfortably go and to focus on pushing your butt back, not just on trying to go as deep as possible. I used to be obsessed because of Eric Janicki and Dr. Mike on trying to go super deep. But truthfully, do a comfortable range of motion and the range of motion that actually works the muscle, and there's no need to go into very extreme positions.
Okay, I really think the best isolation exercise for the quads is, of course, the leg extension. And it complements the compound pendulum squat that we did earlier very nicely because it actually hits the big, long rectus femoris head of the quads harder than any squat variation will.
Honestly, I completely agree, though to be fair, what other isolation exercises are there for the quads? I guess you could do reverse Nordic curls, maybe?
Up until the last month or two, I always did these leaning forward because conventional wisdom said that leaning forward should stretch the glute medius better.
If you look at the fiber directions of the glute medius, they're not well aligned for leaning seated hip abduction. However, you can just bridge up and do a hip thrust and then do bridged seated hip abduction, and then you're really targeting the glute medius.
I've always done them leaning forward as well, but maybe I should start leaning back, although it does look kind of weird if you're leaning back and then spreading your legs. Anyway, that is Jeff Nippard's full leg day, ending it off with some standing calf raises because seated calf raises suck, they don't hit all the parts of the calf. But regardless, it was an amazing lower body day. This is more of a reaction video than a critique because Jeff Nippard is a GOAT. This is an absolutely amazing video. Go check it out. I didn't react to absolutely everything because I want you guys to still watch his full video, which I will link in the description down below. But thank you guys for watching. If you want to see more videos like this, let me know in the comments down below. But for now, I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye, everybody. You can't lose fat on 6,000 calories per day. With the little clown emoji, the clown is correct. Good luck losing fat on 6,000 calories per day. Calories in equals calories out with the little nerd emoji? Yeah. Nerds are such losers, bro. How dare they know things and be correct all the time? Puh. Losers, bro. You need carbs to build muscle. You technically don't need carbs to build muscle, but they are sort of very useful as they are your body's main energy source. Yeah, this video is a complete lie. I promise you, he did not lose what looks like 10 to 20 kilograms of body fat and put on between 5 and 10 kilograms of muscle all within 90 days. It's literally impossible. Seco is indeed true, but nobody thinks about how the calories outside of the equation changes when you naturally optimize your biology. Now this, my friends, is a complete lie. In my last video where I critiqued horrible gym Instagram advice, I covered this guy, but I wanted to make a whole video on him because I thought that he is such a nutcase, I just had to cover it. So strap yourselves in, folks.
Imagine you just finished a long, hard day of work. Perhaps you did a nice, hard workout right after that, and you finally just got home after a very long day. What do you think is going to make you feel more rewarded for that hard day of work? Eating a bunch of salad and, I don't know, protein ice cream.
How dare you! Dare you!
A few minutes later.
I'll kill you! I'll kill you!
2 hours later.
I love protein ice cream, god damn it! I love that shit. I eat it all the time, it's so good! Nothing makes me feel happier at the end of a gym session than buying and eating some protein ice cream. God damn it! By the way, isn't this really cool? It looks really nice. I think it's really cool. Good use of money. I love protein ice cream. And by the way, follow me on Instagram. I'm gonna start reviewing all the types of protein ice cream. I can assure you guys, protein ice cream is dope. Do you know why? Because if you have something that you still like that's very tasty, that satisfies your sweet tooth, and is really low calories, some of these protein ice creams are only 300 calories, it does amazing things for helping you lose body fat. Because instead of eating 1,000 calories of real ice cream, you can eat 300 calories of protein ice cream and be full and satisfied, and I think it's an amazing way to do your cut.
Or on the flip side, a ginormous fatty steak or a bunch of nice crispy burgers slathered in butter. Because one of those things is actually going to activate your reward system.
I don't know what's the point of slavering it in butter. Is that a good combination, slavering butter with steak? Let me know in the comment section if you've tried it. I would argue that what fires your dopamine systems better than anything else is junk food. That's why junk food is a problem. Because people can't stop eating it because they're addicted, because it fucks up their dopamine system. It's okay to have junk food every once in a while. It's not a big deal, don't stress.
Big Vegetable doesn't want you to know that I got in the best shape of my life in a matter of months by not eating a single.
Who's Big Vegetable? Yeah, bro. Big Vegetable doesn't want you to know that carrots don't actually give you night vision.
Plan. And by training the way that they did prior to gear usage many decades ago. This has worked for literally thousands of people that I've taught to do this exact same thing.
Vegetables are really good for you. I don't think I have to argue that stance. As for training like bodybuilders did before gear, that was more than a few decades ago. That was almost a century ago. If you compare bodybuilders from the 1940s, before gear was invented, maybe 1930s, whatever it was, bodybuilders now, they look significantly better now, even when they're natural, because we know how to train better.
To the point where they are able to eat like kings, train in a way that doesn't make the gym their entire life, and yet they get jacked in a matter of weeks by training and eating the way that our species was designed to.
The implication here is that our species was designed to only eat meat. We're omnivores, first of all. Second of all, I did a bit of Googling, just out of curiosity. An estimated 70 to 80% of our ancestors' diets consisted of plant matter.
If your goal is to gain a ton of muscle, be strong, be lean, you honestly shouldn't take a page out of the book of bodybuilders or powerlifters.
Yeah, bro. What the fuck do bodybuilders know about getting jacked and lean? It's not like every single professional bodybuilder is extremely jacked and lean, and it's not like the most jacked people on the planet are bodybuilders, and hypertrophy training, by definition, is building muscle. What do they know? What do bodybuilders know? They know nothing, apparently. This guy knows more than bodybuilders.
You should instead look at guys who do something called street lifting. So you know those weird dudes who do all the weird like bar tricks in Eastern Europe? I'm not really into that stuff, but there was an offshoot of that sport called street lifting, where they compete in who can do the heaviest weighted chin-up and weighted dip. The world record for the dip, I believe, is like 450 pounds. World record for the chin-up is well over 300 pounds. And as you can imagine, if you can do a chin-up with 300 pounds and a dip with 450 pounds, you're gonna have some freaky arms.
Yes, but if I can curl 135 for reps and I can do a tricep extension with the full stack, I'm also gonna have pretty meaty arms. They're both forms of resistance training. I don't understand what's this thing with people promoting really specific types of weightlifting or really specific exercises, claiming that this one gimmick is the secret to building muscle and everything else doesn't work. Calisthenics and weighted calisthenics work because it's resistance training. You put your muscles under mechanical tension and they grow. But bodybuilding with weights does the exact same thing. There's nothing special about either of them. And as for getting jacked with weighted pull-ups and weighted dips, what about your legs?
And at the same time, if somebody can do that naturally, I've talked to the world record holders before, I believe most of them are natural.
I promise you the world record holders for how much weight they can lift on any exercise are not natural.
If you can do that naturally as a human being, even if you're a genetic phenom, the average person with dedicated training can get to the point where they can at least achieve like a third of that. And a third of that is several plates attached to your dip belt. That is going to make people stare at any local gym in the United States. And at the same time, it is going to put you through a deep, full range of motion that is going to get chest, triceps, biceps, shoulders, everything just jacked.
So will every compound lift. But if you also throw in some isolations in there, like bicep curls or tricep extensions, you'll get even more jacked. There's nothing special about calisthenics that's going to get you way more jacked than bodybuilding training, and vice versa. They can both get you pretty much equally as jacked.
I'm going to say this for the millionth time. If you do cardio, you are just wasting your time.
Thank God he said this, because I hate cardio. I don't do any cardio. It's a lie, I do plenty of cardio, but cardio sucks. Thank God this random guy on Instagram is about to debunk cardio, because everybody knows cardio sucks because...
And in fact, if you have time for 60 minutes of cardio on top of your very important lifting sessions, you're probably not busy enough and you probably don't make enough money. Instead, your metabolism, your appetite, everything will skyrocket when you train your legs in a